How many times can one man leave you breathless? When you get on his bad side, your number is up. Timothy Dalton is James Bond 007. Licensed to kill.
Licensed to Kill is the 1989 spy film, the 16th in the James Bond series, produced by Eon Productions, and the second and final film to star Timothy Dalton as MI6 agent James Bond. In the film, Bond resigns from MI6 in order to take revenge against the drug lord Fran Sanchez, who ordered an attack on Bond's friend and CIA agent Felix Leiter, and the murder of Felix's wife after their wedding. Licensed to Kill was the fifth and final Bond film directed by John Glenn, and was the last to feature Robert Brown as M and Caroline Bliss as Miss Moneypenny. It was also the last to feature the work of screenwriter Richard Maybaum, title designer Morris Binder, and producer Albert R. Broccoli. Licensed to Kill was the first Bond film to not use the title of an Ian Fleming story. Originally titled License Revoked, the name was changed during post-production due to American test audiences associating the term with a driving license.
But then, when you come to think about it, James Bond must now be in his mid-60s and very possibly in possession of a bus pass. After all, he first appeared on screen, personified by Sean Connery, of course, in Dr. No in 1962. And he can't have been much less than 40 then. And yet, stirred but never shaken, he plugs doggedly on year after year. His face, the gimmicks and the special effects vary movie by movie, but the plot remains the same. The world is threatened and 007 saves it. Perhaps it's this very familiarity that explains the continuing success of a series that might accurately be called Carry On James. In any event, carrying on is what it's doing. The latest umpteenth episode, called License Revoked, is being filmed in the Florida Keys, and it was there that Tom Brooke went to reflect upon the phenomenon of the oldest spy in the world.
Key West, Florida, one of the many locations for this new Bond film, bringing Timothy Dalton back again as Agent 007. He says Licensed Revoked is rather different from his first outing as Bond in The Living Daylights.
It's got a much more direct adventure line through it. It's less complex, I think. I used to call the other one a mystery thriller or a romantic mystery thriller. This I think you'd have to call an adventure thriller.
Licensed Revoked will be the 16th Bond film, the latest installment in a series which began more than a quarter of a century ago.
Goldfinger.
Over the years, different Bond films and different actors portraying Bond have touched the lives of millions.
Meeting you with a view to a kill.
Taken together, these films, including the latest Bond picture with Timothy Dalton, have created a movie phenomenon of staggering dimensions. It's been estimated that half the world's population, that's 2 billion people, have now seen a James Bond film.
We went to China recently on a reconnaissance, and our films haven't been released in China, and yet they're all very well aware of the James Bond films. So they see them somehow. I don't know how they see them, but it gives you an idea of how widespread they are.
A major part of the film's appeal is Bond himself. But to win audiences, Agent 007 has to be portrayed appropriately. Timothy Dalton has tried to move Bond away from the world of comedy-like technological extravaganzas back to the more complicated character envisaged by Ian Fleming, who wrote the original novels.
I've got to find a way to make an audience identify with me and believe in what's happening. Because if you don't believe in a fantasy, you don't get involved in it and you don't enjoy it.
A crucial element in every Bond fantasy is the villain. In Licensed Revoked, that honour falls to actor Robert Davi. who portrays a dangerous-looking Latin American drug lord. Darby says the villain, as a representation of evil in Bond films, has been an important element in their overall success.
There is a mythical battle between the light and dark, good and evil, in the Bond films that I think touched the subconscious of generations of the people that watch them. So besides being immensely entertaining, it also has there's a message in the ravioli.
But most people don't go to Bond films for messages. They go to be entertained, and in many cases for titillation. That often comes from the other key to Bond's enduring success, the Bond girls.
I think the great problem has been often our own publicity. The way our publicity and the media represent the films, you see lots of ladies in bathing costumes surrounding James Bond. The truth is you hardly ever see these ladies in the movies. But the ladies you see in the movies are good leading actresses.
The Bond films won't work unless all the ingredients are brought together in just the right way. A large part of the responsibility for the overall look of the films falls to director John Glenn.
It's comic strip, really, isn't it? I mean, it's a series of very fast-moving action shots coupled with very good dramatic playing scenes. So we, in fact, do make a comic strip, if you like, of all the action sequences.
The Bond team has hit on a winning formula, which hasn't changed that much over the years. Nor is it likely to, because James Bond films are highly profitable. In fact, they're the most lucrative series in film history. A fantasy that audiences the world over enjoys, and one in which those who make the films appear quite dedicated. If all goes according to plan, then License Revoked will be released next summer. There's every indication it'll continue the tradition and become just as popular as all the other Bond films.
And never mind the message in the ravioli.
Bond has to rely much more on his own tenacity and ingenuity, upon his brains. And he's also on his own. It's a personal vendetta. Bond disobeys orders, goes off on a personal mission of vengeance against Sanchez, who's our villain.
There have been many memorable villains over Bond's career, but none as ruthless and chilling as the newest entry, a billionaire drug lord played by Robert Davi.
The character of Frank Sanchez, who I play, is a character that if Shakespeare were alive, he'd be writing about him today.
John Glenn has now directed 5 successive Bond films, and he feels that Davi's evil character will become a classic.
I would be very surprised if he wasn't the best villain we've ever had in the Bond series.
But it will be a very new kind of villain, really. I think it's extremely believable and forceful.
When you think of a Bond film, you also think of the leading ladies, or the Bond girls. Carrie Lowell and Talisa Soto are the newest additions, who represent a new type of woman with a different attitude.
There's more to us than just a flash of a, pretty girl with long legs,
She's very cocky and is quite a challenge to Bond because he's more used to women who acquiesce, or who decorations on his arm.
Well, what are you waiting for? Get in!
These 2 girls are going to be smashing.
The trademark of a Bond film is action. Audiences have come to expect the unexpected, and in License to Kill, they will be treated to some cinematic firsts.
If we ever let the public down, I think that they always come out and experience some novel things that haven't been done before. Spectacular action is very important to our films.
Everybody be careful, we don't know what could come flying up here. Just be ready to move.
Ready? And action!
The stunts take you underwater, on the water, parachuting through the air, and on the highway, encompassing almost any situation imaginable.
We go from seaplanes to a Cessna 172 to Coast Guard helicopters into this little Super Cub. I like it. It gets me excited.
The production also built some impressive custom-made trucks, one that performs front wheelies, the other side wheelies.
Action, Tim!
One of the bonuses for director Glenn was the fact Dalton performed most of his own stunts.
Most actors say they do their own stunts, but this guy really does his own stunts. He's a very thorough actor. I think he's always a little uneasy when someone else is impersonating him, if you like.
We'll have you sitting right here or kneeling right here. Then I'll tap you on the shoulder. That means you're going out.
If you believe it's me, it's me. If you can see it's me, it's me. The audience should just quite simply believe that the character that they're watching, James Bond, does them.
Since Dr. No premiered in 1962, over half the world's population has seen a James Bond film, a total of nearly 2 billion people. And now, the legacy continues.
If you're a fan of any Bond movie and anything you had enjoyed and expected in the past in terms of spectacular action, spectacular stunts, characters, beautiful girls, you'll get that.
1981, producer and writer Michael Wilson has charted a course for the most popular fictional character in the world, Secret Agent 007. For 4 films, Wilson, co-writer Richard Maybaum, director John Glenn, and producer Cubby Broccoli worked to redefine James Bond. In each successive adventure, Bond survives off his wits and physical prowess rather than gadgets. At the end of the 80s, the filmmakers decide to take the character of James Bond one step further.
Your license to kill is revoked.
Time to leave.
After the release of The Living Daylights, filmmakers discuss ideas for the next Bond adventure.
Timothy and I talked at great length about, how we were going to try and go back more to a sort of a harder age Bond.
He was always looking for something meatier to do with more passion in it.
Also, we felt more importantly that this type of character suited Timothy Dalton.
To find Bond's harder edge, filmmakers return to Ian Fleming. A key sequence in the novel Live and Let Die provides Bond's motivation in the film. And a character from a Fleming short story becomes one of the villain's henchmen.
What do you want?
Mr. Crest.
Bolt your door.
I think in this particular movie, I think we're truer to the Fleming characters. And that's something that Timothy Dalton felt very strongly about as well.
To keep the film current, producers create a villain ripped from the headlines.
I think that the plot on License to Kill was very up to the minute at that time. The world was being run by the drug barons.
At first, filmmakers think of setting the story behind the bamboo curtain.
We went and visited China. We were asked to visit by the government.
We were looking for an original location, somewhere the Bond people had never been before.
I suppose that the powers that be were not that enthusiastic.
And we did have a script written.
So nothing ever came of it as far as working there.
And we still got this pressure that we're going to be shooting this film come 6 months' time.
From Moonraker, which was 79, 80, until 89, that decade, the cost of the pictures did not rise.
We were under severe pressure to keep the budget down.
I guess it's time to start turning overhead.
The last thing we wanted to do was to leave dear, lovely Pinewood,
So we went to Mexico in order to see if we couldn't save on the budget.
We went to Cubby's office, and so he said, "So what do you think?" So I said, "Well, I think if we go to Mexico City, we're absolutely mad, And he said to me, "If we don't do it in Mexico City, we're not doing the picture." So I said, "Okay, we're going to Mexico City."
Richard Maybaum and Michael Wilson worked to redesign a story which can be shot largely on location in Mexico.
It's been a little bit more controversial than a lot of the others.
One of our objectives was to create this realistic style. It was a departure in some ways from what we'd done in the past.
I think the story was a good story. It was kind of along the lines of the Yojimbo films, if you remember the Kurosawa film, where the samurai goes into town and without really attacking the villain and all of his cohorts, by just sowing the seeds of distrust, he manages to have the villain bring himself down.
I got the guy who set me up. Only one guy. What do you mean?
Most of the people that are killed the villain killing off his own henchmen.
You ripped me off, then used my own money to pay someone to kill me?
To allow Bond to realistically infiltrate the villain's organization, Michael Wilson turns 007 into a rogue agent.
God help you, Commander. I think James Bond, traditionally, in a lot of the Bonds, has always been his own man.
With the story mapped out, problems with writing a script develop when in 1989 the Writers Guild of America goes on strike.
The writers' strike interfered with Dick Maybaum able to continue with the project. So Michael more or less had to soldier on.
While Michael Wilson completes the script, the casting process begins.
Casting License to Kill was interesting. It was done basically out of Los Angeles.
The first major part cast is that of drug lord Franz Sanchez.
Well, it was way before Noriega, but we were trying to create a Noriega situation there, where top people in the government were under the control of a drug lord.
Remember, you're only president for life.
It was, in fact, Cubby's daughter Tina who first suggested Robert Darby to me.
I used to go to this restaurant where Mickey Rourke and Arnold Schwarzenegger, all of us used to hang out. And Tina used to go there.
He came in the office and he was such a wonderful extrovert.
Casting the part of CIA agent Pam Bouvier proves more challenging.
I was told that she was a tough CIA agent who hangs out in a bar. So I showed up in jeans and a leather jacket, and I thought, this is my idea of tough. And Jane took one look at me and said,
buy yourself some decent clothes.
So that weekend I searched for basically the cheesiest, tackiest dress that I could find, and I wore that back the next day looking very va-va-voom. And they didn't have anything from the current script. They only had something from I guess it was I want to say A View to a Kill.
Except right beneath us is the key geological lock.
Fortunately, my father is a geologist, and so it didn't seem like a foreign language to me. I was able to pull it off with a little bit of, without embarrassing myself.
I remember when we were casting for Lupe, who's Sanchez's girlfriend, Cubby said to me, do you want to, she says, you've got to be in love with her. Do you want to help us cast her? And I said, I'd love to.
Robert came in and dressed up as James Bond and played Bond for me to test her.
And there were about 12 women that were testing from all over the world.
And I tell you, he wasn't bad. Robert was quite good as James Bond. He really was.
I said to Cubby I would kill over her, which is what Sanchez had to do. And I said, and I think the audience would believe that. He says, I think she's a winner, too.
Hello, Felix.
For the role of Felix Leiter, Cubby Broccoli looks back to an actor who played the part 16 years earlier.
You what?
I had seen Cubby and Dana at the bistro, in the restaurant. And it was all very lovely. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you, looking great.
Cubby said to David was in the other day, he said, he looks pretty good, you know. I said, well, this guy's got a parachute, you know. I said, I think he might be a bit old for the part, you know.
And I think he was a little nervous. Probably thought by now I was on crutches or whatever.
David, he's a great, likeable man, and I found myself being swayed.
The last key role to fill is Dario, the cruelest and youngest of Sanchez's henchmen.
I went in and I did the audition, and I didn't think it was that good.
Benicio was a very new face as far as any of us were concerned.
And I just felt it wasn't that good, so I walked back in there and said, let me do it again.
There was something about him which was very up to the minute. You know, he's a very laid-back character, underplays to the extreme sometimes, but has real menace in a quirky sort of way.
Where's my wife? Don't worry. We gave her a nice honeymoon.
For comic relief, filmmakers create the character of corrupt televangelist Professor Joe Butcher.
Bless your heart!
Yes, Wayne Newton was always wanted to be in a Bond film and had been talking to Cubby over the years about being in there.
With the cast in place, the production crew migrates from England to Mexico City.
We all flew out on a jumbo club class with special effects and the art department guys. It's a bit like an army. It's like an army getting together.
The studios was quite an amazing place. Built, I believe, by Howard Hughes.
We looked at the stages and they were pretty abysmal. I mean, they were in poor condition. Every time it rained, the water came through the roof.
It was quite an eye-opener for us.
They'd had a huge earthquake there. Mexico City, the buildings were all leaning against one another, and it was rather bizarre to look out the hotel window and to see everything at the wrong angle.
We made it work. You know, we did quite a lot of work in the studios. You know, there was no phone system. The offices were few and far between. We had to build an art department. We had to build workshops. Anyway, we did it. We set to and did it.
They have some wonderful technicians, and of course their craftsmen are so brilliant.
We built things out there quicker than we'd ever built it here.
The sets were beautifully constructed.
They were great guys, and very clever technicians as well in their own right.
On July the 18th, 1988, shooting begins at Churubusco Studios on Stage 2 with a hard-edged, dramatic scene that will set the tone for the film.
What did he promise you? His heart.
It was a nice strong entrance. You know, cut out a guy's heart. You know, I think that's a romantic gesture. Right away, I'm whipping this beautiful young girl, you know, and you don't think of the kinky aspects of society, you know, and then all of a sudden the film comes out and you get all this fan mail that, you know, is enjoying this whipping sequence.
Robert Davi leaps into his role, searching for a more realistic approach to playing a Bond villain.
Timothy Dalton and myself, having been, I guess, the kind of actors that like to, you know, do as much research as possible, talked about this and went back to Casino Royale, where Ian Fleming talks about how Bond and the villain are actually mirror images of each other.
Davi brings his role off the set, much to the amusement of his fellow actors.
He would walk into the bars in Mexico City like he was Sanchez, like he was this Colombian drug lord, and that they should give me the best table in the restaurant.
Playing Sanchez, I got into that kind of character, that expansive character.
We all thought it was hilarious because we knew where it was coming from, but the people that were not in touch with that he was playing this character were sort of like, okay, we'll get you the thing.
I was most of the time hanging out with Robert Davi, you know. You know, we were the bad guys, so we're kind of like, you know, doing that thing. The bad guys hang out with the bad guys.
And I wanted Benicio's character and Mupi's character to get a sense in reality of what the Sanchez character would be. So I was a bit effusive.
It was like being in some kind of fraternity.
He definitely milked that part in a good way.
On August the 1st, the crew moves to Key West, Florida.
I thought Key West was a fantastic location.
We're shooting in Key West in August. I don't think there's probably a worse time to be in Key West or anywhere else on the East Coast.
And like 4 o'clock every day, you could be sure that the rains were going to fall down, and we could set our clocks to it. Unbelievable.
The location proves the perfect place for Robert Davi to take the title of court jester of the film's cast and crew.
And we're about to begin filming. And wardrobe fittings and the ADs, and everyone's real new to everything.
I check into the hotel room, I'm going to sleep.
You don't really know who's who yet.
But around 3 o'clock, someone calls me up with an English accent.
We'd like you to come down for wardrobe. Jean-Glenn would like to see you in the wardrobe.
And I'm panicking. I'm like really like looking at myself in the mirror going like, how do I look? How do I look?
He came down, his hair was discombobulated.
And I walk into the room, there's, you know, Robert Davi and Don Strout was the other actor that was in that film. They were both sitting there laughing.
Who would do such a thing?
The filmmakers also have real work for the actors, and much of it deadly serious.
My job in that movie was doubling Timothy Dalton in a transfer where I went down a line under a helicopter onto the tail of an airplane.
And we had a plane on a rig. We built a sort of gimbal rig.
So what I was doing under the helicopter was pretty simple. You're just basically a passenger until you have to grab a hold of the thing. So Timothy Dalton says, oh, I'd really like to do that myself. Well, you know, you're the star. So I put him in the harness and hooked him up under the helicopter.
And Tim was great. I mean, he was game for it and did it really well.
There's a big difference between doing action and doing stunts. A stunt, by definition, you don't really see who it is. You just get a glimpse of what's happening, and it's normally the guy flying through the air. There's no point having an actor do it. You never see him.
If you believe it's me, it's me. If you can see it's me, it's me. The audience should just quite simply believe that the man, the character that they're watching, James Bond, dust them.
He's flying into the tail of the plane. He's not far off the ground. And Cubby drove up in his limousine and got out with a big cigar and looks over and looked at me and looked at Timothy flying in and realized that Timothy was flying into this helicopter and goes, "What the hell are you doing? I'm paying you to be up there. Get him down here. He can't get hurt." You know, and, I mean, it was good-natured, but that's my favorite Cubby story. He didn't want his actor up there doing that kind of stuff.
To create the entire effect, parachutist Jake Lombard has to work thousands of feet above the ground.
And that was for real. We were shooting it from another chopper. And, I mean, dear old Jake, he actually came down and he actually got on that tail of that aircraft, which is, you know, that was good stuff.
It's like I said, horizontal free fall, and then they put this airplane in front of you, and you got to wind up getting in on the tail, and then you got to get right off because the person's weight on the tail, it's way behind the center of gravity, so it'll stall the plane out almost immediately. So you've got to just like get on and get off.
The end of the sequence looks simple, but requires elaborate preparation. A fake plane is built by John Richardson's effects crew and towed beneath the helicopter. A cable releases the nose of the plane to create the illusion. As usual in a Bond film, nothing is as easy as it seems.
The boys had previously parachuted in on the wide shots. And now we were doing the close shot of David Hedison landing on his parachute.
There was one scene where it went beautifully, where we landed right in front of the church, I first and then Timothy. And they thought they could get it better.
I asked the crane driver, you know, he was being very, very slow, the crane driver, extremely cautious. And I said, well, there's a happy medium. Can you just do something in between, a little bit faster?
And I went, and I splat right down on the cement. And I thought, it really hurt like hell.
And immediately David went down as though he'd been poleaxed.
And it was a long time, and I could hardly get up. And I finally got up, and I was hobbling around.
We got medical attention, and nothing was broken, fortunately.
And all through the picture, I had this limp because of that fall.
I felt very guilty because I felt I should never have said to the crane driver, go a little bit faster, you know.
Despite accidents, filmmakers continue to work in the warm waters off the Florida Keys. One sequence involves Bond's escape from beneath the waves. To put it all together, 3 separate film crews are assembled. The action unit, led by Arthur Wooster, shoots key shots with Timothy Dalton. Underwater filmmaker Raymond Bravo directs the film's complex work beneath the waves, hundreds of miles away, with submarines provided by Perry Oceanographics of Florida and a team of experienced divers. Arthur Wooster's crew returns to shoot Dalton on a specially built rig to simulate barefoot skiing. World champion skier David Reinhardt performs the actual stunt behind a real seaplane. And soon, the aerial unit takes over. With pilot Corky Fornoff supervising the flying, and Jake Lombard and B.J. Worth doing the stunt work, filmmakers shoot a few more sequences at the Key West location, both above and below water, some more difficult than others. On Thursday, August the 25th, filmmakers return to Mexico and its exotic locations.
We set off with 2 guys from the Tourist Bureau to go to a place near Toluca. 3 hours later, we're still looking for it. No one had ever heard of this otomy.
I suppose it was a meditation centre of some such, or a community centre, really, for the local Indians. But it seemed along the way nobody had bothered to just tell the Indians what it was all about.
What it turned out to be was a real white elephant. You know, it was built by a past president as a departing gesture, and it was kind of a tribute to the Indians. And of course, none of them ever got to see it.
It hadn't been used for years. It was a weird place at 7,000 feet up in the air.
And they'd certainly used a lot of cement building this place, I tell you, although no one ever seemed to go there.
Back in Mexico City, the crew faces an unexpected crisis.
Cubby came down to Mexico and he got very, very ill.
The air is so thin in Mexico and so polluted that it wasn't very good for his lungs to be there breathing it.
And Barbara went back with him and his wife on the plane and got him safely back.
2 or 3 days later, he'd kind of completely recovered. But of course, unfortunately for us, he couldn't come back to Mexico City.
Because he's been so experienced in this and has done so many of these films, he really trusts the people that he has chosen to produce, to write, to direct, and therefore he has his whole team in place and can go away with a relaxed conscience that he's put it in good hands.
Despite Cubby's departure, his vision continues to shape the film.
There was a place called Arabesque in Acapulco.
When you go down the street, you can't see anything. It's this big white alabaster wall.
I walked in and the swimming pool and the marble, you couldn't tell where the marble ended and the water began. And it overlooked Acapulco Bay, the most stunning, stunning interior.
Then you go down underneath and I can't tell you, it's mind-boggling.
It was built like an Indian temple or an Indian palace, white marble everywhere.
It was pristine white, clear as that white piece of paper. From a cameraman's point of view, that's murder,
Both Arabesque and Otomy capture the exotic essence of a Bond film while still keeping the story based in reality.
Things in real life sometimes are much more bizarre than we ever do on film.
The film crew discovers just how true Peter Lamont's words are on a remote road in northern Mexico.
We had a wonderful location on Mexicali. We shot on a section of road at a place called Rumoroso, which was a very dangerous snake-like mountainous road, and there had been so many tragic accidents over the years there that they closed this section of road down and bypassed it, and we were able to actually use the dangerous bit.
We wanted all these big tankers, and Kenworth came to our rescue there.
We had about 16 trucks altogether, and they all did various things. We had one, for instance, that could be driven by Carrie Lowell with the real driver sitting in the sleeping compartment behind the driver with a little peephole so you could see where he was driving to. And that worked very well. We also had a special prime mover which had like 5 tons of weight over the back wheels so that they could do wheelies.
There were lots of added complications. We had planes flying. We had to do a transfer from a plane to the top of the tanker, which, we were getting up there at 4 or 5 in the morning because that's the only time they could fly because of the thinness of the air up there. All sorts of complications.
Oh, no! All kinds of things went wrong up there, and we couldn't explain a lot of them.
There were 2 tankers supposed to be crashing against each other. He just overcooked it a little bit and sent us flying up the wall, which was not planned, but it looked so spectacular that they actually wrote that part of the sequence around this crash.
I only fell off it once. There's one sequence where the truck does a very sharp turn. I think it was to the right. And I just got my hands in the wrong place just when it made this very sharp turn, so I unfortunately just rolled off the top and landed on a sand dune, luckily.
With accidents mounting, the crew becomes open to the power of suggestion, and soon every mishap is blamed on the location's mysterious past.
Several things happened up there at Rumoroso which were unexplained.
We were terrified to shoot them.
We had an accident with a rocket, for instance, that John Richardson, our special effects designer, had made. And I'd seen it demonstrated at Pinewood Studios. There was a guy up a pole fixing the telephone lines, and he's up there and he got hit by that rocket. And he was 2.5 miles away from where we were shooting. And this just freak accident, it severely injured his elbow. This thing hit him from that distance.
Quickly, the stories from the location become more difficult to explain.
Guards saw apparitions walking around the car park where we kept all our trucks. And when challenged, they disappeared. They were trucks mysteriously burst into flames in the middle of the night.
One night there was one truck actually started moving and sort of went off and sort of stopped itself against a wall.
With no one at the controls.
Yeah, it was weird, very weird.
It was just uncanny, but it was definitely a haunted area.
There were a number of strange tales told about the road that we were shooting on, and
we tried to investigate if there was any weird thing that had happened there.
Some people had been killed on it, and the road was supposed to be haunted.
Apparently there had been a minibus with about 5 nuns that had gone over the side in that particular area.
On the stretch that we were using, and killed everyone. It went up in flames.
Second Unit Director Arthur Wooster feels the accidents form a cluster around one small stretch of road.
Where that crash happened, right on that corner, we had about 4 or 5 more incidences right on that same spot. We had Tim, and he has to rush to a truck, jump in it, and drive off. We cleared the corner around the corner, we cleared all the truck, we got everything out the way, and we had it absolutely safe. And Tim rushes over, he jumped in the truck drove off, and somehow another truck had got in there and got in the way, and Tim really went over the side. It was frightening. It was building up and building up, you know.
Finally, the crew prepares to leave Rumarosa with a bang.
The last explosion, where the 2 tankers blow up after they've crashed, and Robert Darby is set alight and walks into the gasoline that's leaking out, and they blow up. We must have had about 200 gallons of gasoline representing each tanker.
For a crew already spooked by the location, Rumarosa has one last surprise.
We shot it with 4 cameras, and one of the special effects boys was over my shoulder on the camera that I was on, taking stills.
And when he showed the still to me, it was quite spooky.
I think it was just a sort of freak bit of wind on fire myself, but it did look like a flaming hand coming out of the explosion.
Perfect arm, perfect hand. And so I thought, well, it's got to be on the rushes, because we had 4 cameras shooting there. I went through and I couldn't see it. I went through on the Steenbeck, frame by frame, and I could not find it.
Arthur brought me a copy of it, and my wife wouldn't have it in the house.
It was definitely an area not to go back to.
It was something I will definitely remember. I don't think I'll ever go back there for a holiday.
Just a wisp of fire caught in a freak moment, like a cloud that takes the shape of an animal. But for filmmakers, it seems to be an omen. Indeed, the hand of fate does reach out and touch James Bond. Though License to Kill establishes many international box office records, in summer 1989 it fails to find a breakout American audience.
The original title of License to Kill was License Revoked. But MGM told us that no one in America would understand what revoked meant, which I find very difficult to believe.
For many, the gritty realism of License to Kill seems far removed from the James Bond they grew up watching. For others, the film marks the return of the true spirit of 007.
It's one of my best films, probably the best film I've ever done. And I'm very proud of it. I think it's become increasingly popular as time goes by.
For millions of fans, License to Kill remains the truest cinematic incarnation of Ian Fleming's incredible creation, James Bond.
Although Ian Fleming has, long been dead when we actually wrote License to Kill, his spirit lives on.
007 is back, bigger than ever, in the newest James Bond adventure, License to Kill. Once again filmed in exotic locations, ranging from Acapulco to Florida's Key West, this 16th installment of Bond welcomes the return of Timothy Dalton as 007 in an exciting role that features his stunning dismissal from the British Secret Service.
Bond has to rely much more on his own tenacity and ingenuity, upon his brains, and he's also on his own. It's a personal vendetta. Bond disobeys orders, goes off on a personal mission of vengeance against Sanchez, who's our villain.
There have been many memorable villains over Bond's career, but none as ruthless and chilling as the newest entry, a billionaire drug lord played by Robert Davi.
The character of Frank Sanchez, who I play, is a character that if Shakespeare were alive, he'd be writing about him today.
John Glenn has now directed 5 successive Bond films, and he feels that Davi's evil character will become a classic.
I would be very surprised if he wasn't the best villain we've ever had in the Bond series.
But it will be a very new kind of villain, really. I think it's extremely believable and forceful.
When you think of a Bond film, you also think of the leading ladies or the Bond girls. Carrie Lowell and Lisa Soto are the newest additions who represent a new type of woman with a different attitude.
There's more to us than just a flash of a, pretty girl with long legs,
She's very cocky and is quite a challenge to Bond because he's more used to women who acquiesce or who have decorations on his arm.
Well, what are you waiting for? Get in!
These two girls are going to be smashing.
The trademark of a Bond film is action. Audiences have come to expect the unexpected, and in License to Kill, they will be treated to some cinematic bursts.
If we ever let the public down, I think that they always come out and experience some novel things that haven't been done before. Spectacular action is very important to our films.
Everybody be careful, we don't know what could come flying up here. Just be ready to move.
Ready? And action!
The stunts take you underwater, on the water, parachuting through the air, and on the highway, encompassing almost any situation imaginable.
We go from seaplanes to a Cessna 172 to Coast Guard helicopters into this little Super Cub. I like it. It gets me excited.
The production also built some impressive custom-made trucks, one that performs front flips, the other side flips.
Action, Tim!
One of the bonuses for director Glenn was the fact Dalton performed most of his own stunts.
Most actors say they do their own stunts, but this guy really does his own stunts. He's a very thorough actor. I think he's always a little uneasy when someone else is impersonating him, if you like.
We'll have you sitting right here or kneeling right here. Then I'll tap you on the shoulder. That means you're going out.
If you believe it's me, it's me. If you can see it's me, it's me. The audience should just quite simply believe that the character that they're watching, James Bond, does them.
Since Dr. No premiered in 1962, over half the world's population has seen a James Bond film, a total of nearly 2 billion people. And now, the legacy continues.
If you're a fan of any Bond movie, and anything you had enjoyed and expected in the past in terms of spectacular action, spectacular stunts, characters, beautiful girls, you'll get that.
Bond, James Bond.
Hello, the name is Cokes, Ray Cokes. I've come tonight to give you the lowdown and the latest on one of the greatest traditions in cinema, Bond. James Bond. Over half the world's population has heard that 3-word self-announcement on the silver screen since it was first uttered 27 years ago by Sean Connery in the first of 007's movie adventures, Dr. No. For over a quarter of a century, novelist Ian Fleming's super slick English secret agent has grown from the pages of his books into the greatest adventure legend in movie history. Tonight, as we salute the Royal English World premiere of Licence to Kill, the 16th James Bond movie, we look at the new film as well as the highlights of the Bond movie legacy and the institution that has grown from Ian Fleming's 007, the world's favourite secret agent. So, who is James Bond? Is he merely a good shot with a pistol or a quick and brave detective with a nose for action? No, he's much more. Get ready now for a fast action glance at our man, Commander Bond, in the bodies of Sean Connery, George Lazenby, Roger Moore, and now Timothy Dalton.
My name is Bond. James Bond.
Well, James Bond reminds me of the Scarlet Pimpernel. The modern Scarlet Pimpernel in a way. You know, charming, debonair, very efficient, very deadly. I mean, deadly when necessary. I know Sean Connery a bit. I think he certainly did it beautifully, and I enjoyed it. And the James Bond films have the quality that you know it is a story. It's not a reality.
I would love to have played Bond, but my wrists are not big enough. My nose may be a little long, too old. I cough a lot. No, I would love to, but I think Bond is one of the great roles, really great roles.
I just like every time I go to the films, I think they can't do it again. They can't make it as much fun as they did last time, and I get a kick out of every new gadget, every new girl, just everything. I'm a very good audience.
I always liked Roger Moore's sense of humor. He had a great sense of humor about it, but I like what Dalton's doing with it. He's making him a real guy.
I think he's excellent. He's like he's as near as damn it, to the kind of dry style that Sean Connery used to have. I mean, of course they don't compare, but I think he's excellent. I think he's going to get better and better as well, with each one. I think he's superb.
I think James Bond is the coolest. Absolutely. I mean, I grew up with James Bond. I mean, I think in a way he's like a part of some kind of identity. I don't know, but I remember Connery in the sharkskin suits on the plane. I mean, that whole image. I could see him driving down the street in an Avanti, with a beautiful woman in a scarf. I mean, he's absolutely crucial.
You sit down at the beginning of a Bond film and you say, okay, just give me a good time. And usually the producers provide.
I knew that if I decided to do it, if I took it on, that there was going to be more at stake than just making a movie. They're tremendously popular, successful films. Half the world loves Roger Moore, half the world loves Sean Connery. I stood the chance of having all the world hate me. It was the first action-adventure movie I'd ever done, The Living Daylights. And, yeah, I like it.
Now, why did you turn down the role twice before finally accepting it?
Well, the first time was a very long time ago. It was when Sean Connery gave up playing the part. And I thought it would have been absolutely daft to take over from Sean Connery. I mean, I grew up with Sean Connery. I used to sneak into the. I think they were rated. No one under 16 could go and see them. I used to sneak in to see the first one. I loved him. I thought he was terrific.
Shocking.
Now, everyone agrees that you've added your own signature to James Bond. Is this the result, I've heard, of your own research into the early Fleming novels?
I think that's the only way that I could have approached it. It's the only way I approach all the work I do. I mean, if a writer's written something, if what he wrote was the real foundation of a very popular series of books, but more importantly, perhaps, the foundation of certain films that turned into a 27-year world-famous series of films, you know that he got something right. I think that there should be humor. I think it should be of a certain kind. I think it should be as sort of sardonic, morbid, or fatalistic humour. I think there should be. Actually, I love the line that Robert Darby's got after a whole bunch of money's been covered in blood, and someone asks him what to do about the money, and he just says, launder it. You know, which I think actually that's more of that humour. It should be in the films, I think.
These stunts, I mean, it must be the most amazing stunt team in the world.
Yeah, terrific.
They're getting more and more outrageous already in The Living Daylight, some of the things they ask you to do, and in this one.
Yeah.
How much further do you think they can go with these things?
Well, first of all, let me say they are splendid. I mean, they're brilliant guys. And equally importantly are the special effects guys, because certainly when I'm involved, the two work very closely together, and I work very closely with both, because in any piece of action, whether it's hanging on to or running on the top of a crashing petrol tanker, or stuff with helicopters and lorries or whatever it might be, there's always explosions and bullet hits. And if you get involved in that sort of stuff, your real question is, how far can you go? Yes, you'd always think, how do you top it? You just think of something different. You either think of something completely unique or different. I mean, in The Living Daylights, hanging on a bag, hanging out the back of a big aeroplane at 15,000 feet having a fight. I mean, it's pretty unique. I think that is one of the best action moments I think I've ever seen in a film.
Could it awaken somewhere the young boy that we all say that we've still got in us, you know?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, that's what they're about, I think. I mean, I don't think Bond movies are for the kid in all of us.
James is a man of many talents, and he seems to exercise all of them in his extremely dangerous job. But it's also a very glamorous job, you say. All those gadgets, wild locations, high society, and the beautiful women. Well, of course, the world of international crime is bound to exist in the world of the rich and powerful, and that's where one finds the most gorgeous, glamorous women. Or so I'm told. The glamour and attraction are actually part of the danger. Many of those amazing girls Bond runs into, you might remember, are actually plants, spies, femme fatales bearing poison lipstick, snub-nosed pistols in their undergarments, and instructions to seduce Bond, get his secrets, and leave him dead in bed. Dangerous liaisons indeed. Bond's creator, Ian Fleming, himself said that he wrote for warm-blooded heterosexuals in railway trains, aeroplanes, and beds. And what could be more dangerous for such a man than a seductive female assassin? But to be fair, there have been lots of beautiful women who have meant no harm to Bond. Remember Ursula Andress as the benign honey-child rider in Dr. No? Well, Timothy Dalton sure does. In fact, he has a lot to say about the Bond woman.
Well, I always like to think, I mean, there are leading ladies. I mean, there are what I call Bond girls, are the sort of lovely girls, nice girls, who you often see around a swimming pool or in the casino or whatever. What others call the Bond girls, I tend to call the leading ladies, because they've got an important part to play in the movie, and they carry a lot of responsibility. I'll never forget Ursula Andress walking out of the sea in Dr. No in a bikini, which caused quite a sensation at the time. The Bond girls should be, and mostly are, sexy, but strong and interesting, and in License to Kill. I mean, Carrie Lowell, who plays Pam Bouvier, I mean, starts off as a woman who would like to think, although she's very attractive and very sexy, I mean, she's been living in a very rough, tough man's world and feels quite sure that she's not just as capable as any man, but more capable than any of the men that she's with, which gives it a good sort of starting point for the relationship with Bond.
The first moment I meet James Bond is in Felix Leiter's office at a wedding where he's having, and we sort of just brush by like ships passing in the night. But the time we really meet is in a sleazy sort of bar in Barrelhead, Bimini in the West Indies, and he's come in place of Felix, and he's carrying a very small weapon and nothing that I think is satisfactory, and so we sort of have a discussion about that, and I get him out of a very sticky situation. We work together to get out, and then we ride off into the sunset in a boat.
Talisa, who's very beautiful and very sexy, is Sanchez's, Robert Davi's girlfriend, and I mean, she's stunning to look at. And both girls are.
Make a sound, and you're dead. What are you doing in here?
Chris gave me his cabin. He's next door.
Where's Sanchez?
He's not on board. I don't know where he is.
You're his girlfriend.
He doesn't tell me anything.
Her name is Lupe Lamora, and she's the villain's girlfriend, which is, his name is Sanchez, and is played by Robert Davi, wonderful actor. And it's her relationship with him and her relationship with James Bond. You know, she's in a very tough situation because she has mixed feelings about the villain. You know, there's a side of her that cares for him, but she wants out. She can't deal with this lifestyle anymore. So that's when she meets James Bond, and they help out each other because James Bond's been looking for him for a long time now.
Ah, yes, Mi Amore, Lupe L'Amore in the new License to Kill. Both of the women in this movie are beautiful and good-hearted as well. But that's all behind us, so to speak, and it's time now to look at the pure source of evil in 007's world, the villain.
The villains. Now, Sanchez is a much more believable villain that's gone before. Do you think the villains have changed over the years?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a drug baron, isn't he? It's an actual threat to...
Yes, I mean, I think it's important. You've always got to keep a film relevant. I mean, Bond is playtime for grown-ups. It's for everybody who's got that, you know, who wants to be involved in fantasy and use their imagination and get caught up in something that's exciting. But it's important to keep the stories relevant and current and up to date. The more we stretch the probable, the more we've got to be linked to what is, I think. And Robert, who does play this drug baron, I think it's an extraordinary performance.
I play this Colombian drug lord. These guys, Fortune magazine did an article on them, and they make $8 billion a year. They are some of the most powerful men in the world. This story is taken out of the back pages of today's newspapers. If Shakespeare were alive, he'd be writing about Fran Sanchez instead of Richard III of Macbeth. What happens is a friend of Bond's is in pursuit of myself, and, or I should say my character, because I'm quite lovely, but he's in pursuit of this character. And because of that, our path, I take Bond in my confidence, and he comes into my world, sees a bit about what that is about.
And now you're here on business? No, temporarily unemployed. I thought I might find work here.
I find out that he's not all he says he was.
Your monthly delivery will be by ocean-going tanker. We'll send our chief chemist along to supervise the reconversion process.
You keep the gas as a bonus. When you look at the gallery of previous Bond villains, starting with Joseph Weisman, Robert Shaw, and Lottie Lenya, Kurt Frobe, Yaphet Kotto, Telly Savalas, Christopher Walken, and on and on. It's a nice, interesting group of people to be involved with.
I would have said the previous best villain in a Bond movie was Kurt Frobe in Goldfinger.
I think you've made your point, Goldfinger. Thank you for the demonstration.
Choose your next witticism carefully, Mr. Bond. It may be your last.
Yes, those bad guys have their own interesting weaponry hardware, just as Bond has his. The funny thing is how 007 manages to wind up turning the villain's gadgets against them. Poor Mr. Teehee in Live and Let Die, for instance, gets hit by a train because Bond locks his vice-clamp mechanical arm on a bar. The great Jaws gets shocked through his own metal teeth, just as Oddjob dies from a jolt through his deadly steel bowler hat, all thanks to 007's quick reactions. But there's no touching the high-tech equipment that Her Majesty's Q branch provides the 00 team. And there's nothing quite like the fever-pitch, cliff-hanging moments when Bond so handily puts them to life-saving use. In a tradition just as famous as the beautiful women and sinister villains, the tools of Bond's trade are the stuff of folklore.
Now, pay attention, please.
Q, Desmond Llewellyn, who's got a terrific part in this movie. I mean, I think it's one of the best roles he's had in a Bond movie, because, you know, he wants to get out on the street and do it and help and get stuck in. And I mean, he brings a little bag, but it's a vital little bag.
Really, 007, Q.
Without the things he brings, the story couldn't, in fact, happen. Bond wouldn't be able to accomplish what he has to accomplish. So there are gadgets, but it's not swamped with gadgets. It isn't swamped with gadgets, and it shouldn't be, really. I mean, it's nice to have gadgets. I like gadgets.
Hello, I'm John Glenn. I'm the director of License to Kill. Yeah, this we shot in Key West, Florida, with the help of the Coast Guard, and also a few bits of improvisation in terms of equipment. Timothy Dalton was very game about working underneath the helicopter with the blades going around and what have you, and we were hoisting him up. And he's very athletic and extremely enthusiastic, and that was great. This is a helicopter belonging, a brand new helicopter with a British pilot, strangely enough. And they gave me a lift home from location one day and frightened the life out of me, which is exactly what they intended to do. Testing some equipment there with cameras semi-submerged. We usually use a plastic bag over an Aeroflex. It seems to work pretty well. These are nice shots of the unit speeding home after a day's work.
Start firing machine gun. Divers, divers, divers! Divers, divers! Stop!
And here we see Timothy Dalton doing barefoot skiing, water skiing. This scene where Felix and Bond parachute in for the wedding, as they've been on operations up to this point, we had a terrific cooperation. They had to remove the power lines from above so we could crane the actors in. And the boys actually jumped into this space as well, which was wonderful. B.J. Worth, as usual. This is interesting. This is Remy Julian's team. This was a device that John Richardson attached to the side of the truck, so that if it didn't work with his expert driver, we would have to use. But as you can see, we didn't need it. His expert driver arrived and performed admirably. I mean, such skill. Unbelievable. And how that didn't fall over, I don't know. And then we went one further and we put the tank on the back of it as well, and he managed to do it with the tank on the back as well. So in all events we were able to do it freely without using any devices. The skill of some of these French drivers is amazing. I mean, it's one thing doing those sort of wheelies with a car, but to do it with a, I don't know, a 10-ton truck is something quite new. I think that's probably the whole secret in the Bond films. They have to be original, and we have some really original stuff in this. This explosion at Rumoroso, it's above Mexico City, and there's quite a history to this place, rather spooky actually. is our crew fixing the camera up in Mexicali. It's a beautiful location. It was just above Mexicali City, about 5 miles out, up on the mountain range. And I don't think they'd ever seen such an assembly of vehicles as they saw with us. We must have had 10 of these trucks, all costing about $100,000 each. And I think we wrote about 7 of them off. One ran away one evening on its own accord and crashed off the precipice. Fortunately, no one was hurt. But we were lucky that we had this 3-mile section of road to ourselves. We could cordon it off. They'd bypassed it because it was so dangerous, and it was perfect for our filming. Very rugged landscape. Many shots going into the making of an action scene like this. This was probably one of the longest action scenes I've ever been associated with. There was so much went on. It was so full of action from beginning to end. Barbara Broccoli was the producer on this. It was her first real effort of producing on her own, and she did an admirable job because it was like a major film. It was like shooting a separate film altogether. Malcolm, the camera operator. Timothy showed terrific nerve on this. So we had 3 days with Timothy down there. I came and left the unit in Mexico City shooting at Churubusco Studios. What trust I have. And I came down and directed Timothy and Carrie Lowell and Robert Darby in this sequence. And it was 3 days well spent. These vehicles, quite unforgiving if they get out of control. Carrie is a lovely girl and terrific action actress, and very, very beautiful. Well, I wouldn't call Robert Darby beautiful, but he was very, very effective.
Something like that.
That's the beauty of having a piece of road that you own, if you like, for the time of the shooting. And Terry Madden in the foreground there was the first assistant director on the 2nd unit. And George there, stills man. He was generally the stills man on the 2nd unit. I used all the crew from the 2nd unit doing my stuff with the main actors. And very good they were too. When we exploded the truck, we gave Timothy what we considered to be a safe point to start running when we started the explosion going. And Timothy started running, and when he looked up, all the camera boys were running as well. It was so hot, and most of us lost the hair off our legs. We were wearing shorts. Not a very good idea. This building is beautiful. It's a house belonging to Baron Portanova on the Acapulco Bay. Unbelievable in its beauty. It's got a heliport on the roof, as you can see, and down below there's a lounge with a swimming pool, huge swimming pool, which merges with the white marble that surrounds it, and also Acapulco Bay in the background, and it's the most incredible effect when the light's in the right place. You can see how gorgeous it is. It's a beautiful setting, and the Baron was a friend of Cubby Broccoli's and extended every facility to him. On this occasion, we used Raymond Bravo, who was a Mexican underwater cameraman, and his crew, and the underwater scenes were done in Cancun. Raymond was quite a find. He was a brilliant cameraman. He had a house in Cancun, so he was very familiar with that territory. And when we did the scene where Felix Leiter was savaged by the shark, he even used a one-legged diver and put a false leg on him and had the shark cut his leg off, which we had to remove for the censor, needless to say.
License to Kill premiered at the Odeon Leicester Square in London on the 13th of June 1989, raising £200,000 for the Prince's Trust on the night. The US premiere was on July 10th, 1989.
Hi, I'm standing here at the premiere of License to Kill, the new James Bond motion picture, 1989. Famous person. You'll notice that I just blend in here with all these people because they're all talking about me, saying, isn't that Mark Pirro? Let's find a Bond person.
Richard, one moment, please. Right here, please. The gal seemed to plug in, like all the other Bonds, and
let's get a couple of Chuck Berries.
He was on tour with the same show. But I've been working, you know, so... Have you met my boyfriend, Yuri? Through France, maybe? No? At the John Denver? Yeah. Okay, we're over here. What is your favorite Bond film?
The first one, Love to Know.
Why?
Because it's the best. Very simply done. I love it.
And in terms of the future, would you like to be in future Bond movies?
No, I was in one about 3 years ago.
That's enough.
So how does it compare with Mr. Steve?
Oh, that's from television. That's years ago. Thank you for remembering.
so is the character large enough to lend itself to the personalities of the people who do it, like Sean or Roger and now Timothy? And the thing begins to collect, you can see the picture begin to collect around Timothy, and he'll be the Bond of the 90s, and so they'll be written in a different way. Also, they're away from Fleming now, so they can really go to...
Do you have a favorite Bond film?
This one.
Why?
For obvious reasons.
What does it take to be a Bond villain? And what did you put into it?
Well, it takes being asked.
Happy birthday, movie time!
Robert, what's that, Robert?
Movie time, it's movie time.
Lisa?
Hi!
And James Bond, you know, and a lot of action. I've actually seen this one already, and it's great. It's got a lot of violence in it.
I come to see the James Bond movies because I look forward to them because I think that Cubby Broccoli is one of the finest producers we have in our industry.
Lisa, what can this preview audience expect from License to Kill?
Sorry?
What can they expect from this movie when they go tonight?
What can they expect?
This audience, what will they see?
Well, you tell me. I hope everyone's going to enjoy it.
Gary, every move.
All the things that make
Carrie, tell me what this preview audience can expect.
A lot of action skills and hopefully a new vision of Bond.
We talked to Cubby a minute ago. He said this is a tougher Bond. Is that
What does it take to be a Bond girl?
Plays a lot. It depends on which Bond girl you're playing.
The one that you play.
Just a good American hero. Just wanted this movie.
Here's the film camera. This is one lady. Okay, well, I'll stand there.
take this, Edison?
Is this the one that? Is this the one?
Thank you. Very nice.
David, would I like that one with you?
Thank you very much.
I'm with you in this. Oh yes. The blonde girl on your left. And the white.
Oh, where are you?
Douglas, underneath the Dick Donner, posing with me. Hello, Greg. Okay. Enjoy the film.
Signing a still?
What is it?
Would you mind signing a still?
Oh, certainly. I mean, we've all had these little scenes, but we don't.
What's last movie? At home.
No. At home. Fish named Wanda.
Really?
This is a great opportunity. I just hope these will come back. I think there's some heat.
Yeah, she's in high school. She's
still there. Yeah, right.
It's about the size of a postage stamp.
Exactly, my entire layout, so I need you guys to.
Yeah, we'll definitely be looking for a postage stamp.
There you go.
Mr. Harrison, maybe you ought to announce that.
I think we can. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Albert Cubby Broccoli. 26 years you've been doing this. 16 great films. I'm smart enough as a politician not to identify one of them. Just say all of them. They have electrified the world. The adventure films, this series has entertained 3 billion people around the world. Tonight we'll see one more exciting episode. My question to you is, how do you manage to get so much excitement into every episode? How do you manage to bring the most beautiful women in the world into this series? Well, you don't have to answer that. All you need to do is put them on the screen. And tonight, once again, we'll enjoy that great touch, that great eye.
When I was a kid, we didn't have television. We went to the movies. And I remember the very first feature film that I ever saw. It starred Alan Ladd, Harry Andrews, and Stanley Baker, and it was called The Red Beret. Here in America, it was called Paratrooper. It was many, many, many years later that I discovered this film, the first film I ever saw as a 5-year-old kid, had been produced by Mr. Cubby Broccoli. Well, life is wonderfully strange. I could never have imagined then that I'd be part of our profession. I would never have imagined then that I would one time work for Mr. Broccoli.
Elton picking Monty.
Come on, baby.
I'm lost. All the important people are gone. I'm going to talk to a Bond bad guy. Thanks a lot.
Video this time.
Here we have Glenn Campbell with Hervé Villachez.
Thanks, bro.
Very much so. All right, tell your friends and go again. All right.
Well, great job.
Thanks a lot.
A bit part in Die Hard, next to Bond movie. What's the world coming to? It's quiet here. The aftermath of a major screening. All the stars are gone. No one left but us also-rans. The no ones. The nobodies.
One more time, guys.
Is
James Bond movie number 18, License to Kill, with Timothy Dalton once again in the role of 007. Now in this one, Bond settles a personal score when some bad guys knock off his pal Felix Leiter. In fact, this movie was going to be called License Revoked, until the film company discovered that a lot of Americans don't know what revoked means.
In a Bond film, you know, we are talking about pure and simple entertainment. This film, License to Kill, has taken a huge leap. It's gone right away from its immediate past back to its origins. It is, as I said, a much more violent and exciting film. It inhabits the real world.
Your License to Kill is revoked.
The basic story of the film is obviously about a drug baron and Bond's fight to get even with this guy. So he goes on a personal vendetta.
I help people with problems.
Problem solver.
I'm more of a problem eliminator.
You're getting the spectacular action, the stunts, the girls, but now the conflict between these two forces of Bond and Sanchez, in a much realer way, adds another dimension to this film.
You've got 25 years of history, and half the world loved Sean Connery, half the world preferred Roger Moore.
Timothy Dalton is probably the best Bond of all.
And in a James Bond movie, the unexpected is just what everyone expects. Ingenious gadgets, intricate getaways, and of course, incredible gals. And it all adds up to the latest in the 007 series. License to Kill is its name, and for the second time, Timothy Dalton is Bond, the legendary British Secret Service agent, always on top of things, and he is here. Literally on top of things, and he's joining us this morning. Nice to have you here.
Thank you.
You take a little license with license in this. It's L-I-C-E-N-C-E?
Yeah. Well, that's the British spelling.
It is?
Yeah.
The American audiences all look at that and say...
Oh, but they know what it means.
Oh, they know what it means. All right. Well, they look at Bond and say he can do anything but can he spell. But it is the British spelling of license.
It is, yeah.
Those stunts. When I saw the movie, I mean, I'm always amazed at what you guys do in those movies. How much of that... I know it's the old question, but how much of that is you and how much of that?
Well, quite a lot of it's me. I've always felt right from when I took over in The Living Daylights that the audience must be able to identify with Bond, so I've always made a point of getting involved in everything. That little clip you've just seen, I did get out of the aeroplane on the wire.
And when it actually hooks I think it's a Cessna plane, helicopter, is that actually a helicopter and a plane or those models?
It was done for real. I mean, that wide shot to see it happening was done for real.
Terrific stuff. Yeah. And you had, I understand, a close call in a stunt this time. Is that right?
I don't think so.
I heard that you'd grabbed onto something and your watch caught on a...
Well, I cut my finger once, but that wasn't doing a stunt. That was in the studio. The stunts are safe. I mean, we've got a terrific team of stunt men, terrific team of special effects people, and they make sure everything's safe, because it's only a movie. It's when you're doing something very ordinary and very simple and quite controlled that you have accidents. Yeah, I just, coming over a conveyor belt, I caught my finger.
Yeah, well, where else would you do? Coming over a conveyor belt, over an airplane, whatever. Is there, for a while, Bond seemed to be getting to be a caricature, maybe a little bit of a cartoonist. Is he back to more of a... I felt he was more of a regular.
Well, I'd like to think so. It's certainly been everything I've aimed for and everything I've committed to. I think Bond now in this film certainly is right back in the world that the real James Bond inhabits. It is dangerous, it's tough, it's a lot more violent, it's exciting and tense.
Explain, if you can, to me. I have, since movie number 1, waited for these things to come out. I go see them. There is, I mean, 16 movies now that have been made. Why am I still as anxious to see number 16 as I was number 1? What is it that holds people in these movies?
I think basically they are good stories. The formula is good. You've got good against evil, a hero representing us against all that we perceive to be evil. But I think more importantly, I think Mr. Broccoli's always made films that have spared no effort to be better than the one before. Maybe they've not all succeeded in that, but there's no expense nor effort spared, and the best people are always used. So they're terrific films, each one.
But there are plenty of actors have tried to do larger-than-life, you know, caricatures, and there's lots of adventure films, etc., and they work once, twice. Sometimes you can get 3 out of it, not 16. I mean, that's an incredible span for a series of stories.
Yes, it is, and let's hope it carries on.
Yeah, yeah. Will there be more?
If this one is successful, and we hope it will, we made this because The Living Daylights was a great success worldwide. That's why we made this, and if this one is, but that's down to you, it's down to the audience, it's up to everybody.
Is there a time when the producers get together and think, now we've got to come up with, I mean, you know, how many different stunts, how many different ways to do in people?
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's a bit like music. There's only so many notes you can play.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, if you take any specific stunt, you've got to think of a new location for it, a new way of doing it. I thought on, for example, The Living Daylights, the 2 guys fighting on the bag hanging out of a Hercules airplane at 15,000 feet. We've all seen fights, but that was a new location on this movie. What we do with those trucks and what we do with that plane and helicopter at the beginning is fantastic.
It really is.
It's finding new places and new ways to perhaps to do the same stunts.
Are they fun?
Oh, it's great fun. It really is, yeah.
You're not, because you have a very serious acting background, and sometimes I wonder if, you know, if you're thinking, geez, I don't know if I should be doing this, or...
Oh, no, because I love going to watch films like James Bond movies, you know, and why not, as part of a career, as part of life, as much variety as possible is best.
Well, Timothy Dalton, it's no question whether it'll be a success. Everybody will go see it. Great pleasure to have you here. Would you please, before we go, do the I love the Bond, James Bond line?
Oh, you can't have that.
Oh, come
Sorry,
on.
No.
No?
That exists only in the movie, but I think you'll catch it in the movie. Go and see the movie.
A few times, yes, indeed. Thank you very much. It is now 6 minutes before the hour. We'll be back.
Well, it's more serious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's,
you had to be
more
tired a
thrilling.
lot of days after the set, though. After shooting, you had to be exhausted.
You hardly
it
get
looks like-
get the time, you know. I mean, on location, you can work any hour God gave you, and mostly it's 15 hours a day.
Yeah, that's fine, thanks.
And at the end of 15 hours, you know, it doesn't finish. You go watch some rushes, you go and have a meeting about
But
tomorrow.
I mean, I can't think of a role that I've seen anyone play. Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones is pretty physical too, but at least
Stand by, please.
you're moving the whole time.
On my cue, we'll be ready. And action.
Timothy, we talked 2 years ago when you were coming out with Living Daylights, and you were very happy about what the product was, and the people accepted you. And I know you were very relieved and glad about that. How did that first film really affect your life in the last 2 years?
Well, I mean, you've made the most important point. It worked. People did love it. I mean, not everybody, because already you could see that the style of the movies was beginning to change slightly, and everyone has an opinion. Everyone knows what kind of Bond they want, and certainly, you know, some people prefer like Roger Moore to Sean Connery, and sometimes vice versa. But it did work, so there was an establishment. It wasn't the personal failure that it could have been.
Yeah.
So I was very, very relieved, very pleased, delighted, in fact. It made a difference professionally. It meant more offers coming through the door. And apart from that, I wouldn't say it made too much difference at all.
Didn't affect your privacy? I know you were worried about that.
Well, I think everybody else was, and certainly it was a possibility, you know, but I'm very relieved to say that it hasn't, because, you know, you're a journalist, I'm an actor, we work in the same world, which is the world of the real world, real people, life, the street. If you allow yourself to get cut off, if you're forced to be cut off, I mean, that would be tragic, because you'd be cut off from your own sustenance, the foundations of your work. I mean, I discovered that, you know, if you go out and behave like a regular guy, people treat you like a regular guy. Most people out there, everybody is, you know, decent and good, and they've got their own sense of self-respect and integrity, and they treat you like they'd like to be treated. I mean, of course, there are one or two people that do bother you, but it's so small, it's not. And I'm pleased, because you can't live on a hill surrounded by barbed wire and not being part of the world.
Now, Bond has gotten himself in big problems this time. He is he's gotten himself in trouble, but he's doing what he thinks is right.
Absolutely, absolutely. You'll know the world of the movies that is a world of corruption and money and drugs. His friend and his friend's wife have been brutally murdered and maimed, and no one's going to do anything. Now, Bond isn't exactly a good guy. You know, Bond's a killer. He often has to be as bad as the bad guys, but he has got a sense of justice and a sense of honor, and he's going to get the guys that did it.
Were there a lot of spirited conversations in the making of this before the script about whether or not Bond could be disloyal to the crown and that kind of thing?
Oh, not in that sense, no. It's just a necessity of the story. I mean, it's a good piece of drama. You know, if everyone else is bought off or influenced in another way and won't do it, he will. I mean, Sodom, frankly. You know, he's that kind of man. Mind you, there's always a lot of spirited discussions about the movie every day of making of the movie. But no, it was the right thing to do. I mean, he does the right thing. I mean, he doesn't necessarily behave in the ideal way or the proper way, but because he's not a perfect guy and he's certainly not a white knight in shining armor. But ultimately, he does what's right, and he does it because he cares.
Where's your biggest bruise from making this movie? You had to get a couple.
Christ. You get bruised all over in these movies. I mean, with the greatest care, with the greatest discipline, you do take a few knocks and bangs, but they're not serious and should never be serious.
Ever get too far on the limb?
No.
You would, though. There's a danger in Timothy Dalton getting too far on the limb, isn't it? Because you really want to get in there the whole time?
Well, I do want to get in there. I want to get in there because I want the audience to join me in there. You know, the audience has got to come along with Bond. They've got to see him in there.
And you're not comfortable with someone else playing you.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, there's stuntmen on any movies, and we've got some of the best, the most skilled stuntmen in the world. I'm not going to go into, you know, who does what and when, but I know that an audience want to share those moments of danger and excitement with Bond. We've got to make them. You all, us all, we've all got to share those moments, and so Bond's got to be in them. And if that means me being part of them, then that's how it must be. But with the rider, that it's treated with real discipline. It's got to be safe. The skill is to make it look dangerous. Right. I mean, I did hang out of the helicopter, but the line you let down on is the line they used to rescue people with. So I mean, as long as everything's proper and we make sure it is, you're safe. It's a strange circumstance to find yourself in dangling underneath a helicopter, but it's safe.
But after 16 movies, there is an amazing lot you can still do with the character of James Bond, isn't there? He's a large character.
He's a large character, he's a complex character, and as long as the stories that are different, and there always will be a hero story of some kind, because the world changes day by day, and as long as we can make it, each story a modern story, there'll always be a role for a Bond in that world.
Well, congratulations on doing it again.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right. And he's done, ladies and gentlemen. He's done.
Is he done?
He's a wrapped.
He's a wrapped.
He's wrapped.
Initially, 25 years ago, starting from then, you had a series of films with some very good actresses, and I think the parts were more fleshed out. I mean, you can't say that Diana Rigg is not a three-dimensional actress. Jill St. John was wonderful in her part as the leading lady in one of the early Bond films. Ursula Andress, although one remembers, you know, the swimming costume and the knife and coming out of the sea, you know, gave a major impact to that first movie, Dr. No. On a black man, you can hardly call two-dimensional. I think they did go into a phase of being really rather more decorative, and it would be nice to think we've come out of that. I thought Marianne's performance in The Living Daylights, I mean, she fulfilled the role she had to play superbly. This uses an awful lot of Fleming. I mean, you'll recognize when you see it, if you know the books well. Lots of reverberations and echoes, and in some cases precise moments from a variety of books. It just so happens that it's the first time there isn't a Fleming title called License Revoked. The title's made up. One of the interesting things about Bond is that he's just as bad as they are. I mean, the books come back to this theme time and again. I think that's one of the reasons why maybe if we talked about The Living Daylights before, this theme of acidity, malaise keeps creeping back into each of the books. The real sense of distaste for who he is, what he is, and the world he's working in, because he's old enough to recognize himself. He says time and again, or someone says time and again, he's just as bad. He's a murderer, a killer. Cold, cruel, ruthless killer. He just happens to be working for the side that's called good. Where Fleming is special is that he gives this man a completely opposite side and makes him very human and makes him one of us. And so we put ourselves in his place, but recognize that side to him, which probably does lurk in all of us in some small degree or not. But oh yeah, he's as bad as they are. Most of the work's been done in Mexico City, in the studios and in Key West, and on locations around Mexico. Nobody should really know how our effects are achieved. I think it puts a wrong slant on the movie. If you take a particular moment, action moment in the film, and everybody in the audience knows, oh, well, that wasn't Timothy Dalton doing that, that was his stunt man. I mean, it's not a good thing. It takes believability away from that moment. On the other hand, if someone says, oh, that was Timothy Dalton, he did his own stunt, well, that's bad for the movie too. The audience should just quite simply believe that the man, the character that they're watching, James Bond, does them. I should also say that alongside stunts really go special effects, because it would be rare that a stunt takes place without some kind of explosion or gunfire or massive amount of flame or whatever. And I think the special effects team that we have, which is a large one, headed by John Richardson, I think are the best I've ever worked with, ever. When I came to this project, one of the real reasons why I accepted to do it was that Mr. Broccoli had said he wanted to take these films back to, not how they were at the beginning, but he wanted to take them back to the spirit of the earlier films. Back to that style, back to capturing what those films had, and what in fact those films had was they actually contained the spirit of Ian Fleming. They were very much like the books. They were damn good, interesting, romantic action mystery thrillers.
Here.
The name's Wogan. James Wogan. Like every other middle-aged male fantasist, I wanted to be 007 for years. The girls, the casinos, the girls, the gadgets, the girls, the champagne, the girls. Unfortunately, Cubby Broccoli had other ideas. And he's picked the likes of Connery, Moore, and Dalton. I shall put his foolishness forcefully to old Cubs himself tonight as a new Bond epic, License to Kill, hits the screens. And there's the delicious Talisa Soto, who plays Lupe. That's spelled L-U-P-E, L'Amour, and as nasty a piece of work as has ever tried to reduce Bond to rubble, Robert Davi as the arch-villain Sanchez. And of course, shaken but not stirred, 007 himself in the guise of Timothy Dalton.
You have an assignment, and I expect you to carry it out objectively and professionally.
Then you have my resignation, sir.
We're not a country club, 007. Effective immediately. Your license to kill is revoked.
looks like he might not make it. Still available, Cubby? I don't know about you, but mayhem and bimbos apart, one of the high spots of every Bond movie is when old Q comes out of the woodwork with the latest lethal gadgetry.
Having problems keeping it up, Q? Smashing, Q.
Take a fountain pen. Twist the top. And a highly concentrated mixture of nitric and hydrochloric acid. Dissolves all metals. This is now being issued as standard equipment. Strap it on your wrist. It's activated by nerve impulses from the wrist muscles.
Like this?
Welcome, Q himself, Desmond Llewellyn. Desmond, first, after all these years, what does Q stand for? What does it mean?
Quartermaster.
Ah, as simple as that.
As simple as that.
I see. And how did it come about that? I mean, what do you know about the background to it?
Well, in Dr. No, Major Boothroyd, who is a real character, Geoffrey Boothroyd, who'd written to Ian Fleming years ago and said he liked everything about James Bond except his deplorable taste in weapons.
Yeah.
And that a Beretta was a lady's gun, and not a very nice lady at that. So in Dr. No, we see Major Boothroyd giving James Bond the Walther PPK instead of the Beretta. Well, when it came to Russia with Love, luckily for me, that actor wasn't available, and I played Major Boothroyd.
And you've been doing it ever since.
And I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, well done. Well, what you've brought the bag of goodies, as you
Yes.
normally do turn up in every James Bond movie with a briefcase full of
Here's the briefcase
unspeakable effects. Let's have a look.
with all the things.
Yes, what's in there?
Well, this is the underwater camera from Thunderball. In those days, there was no such thing as a small underwater camera.
Yeah.
And so they said, we must try and find one. And somebody said, why not get onto Nikon? And so they wrote to Nikon and said, have you such a thing as a small underwater camera? And they said, well, we're working on it. And they said, well, we'd like to use it in a Bond film. Of course, being the Japs, it came back by return of post.
Wonderful. And it actually works?
It actually works, but the one you have today is the Nokomis.
Ah, yeah. Now, what else? What
Now,
else?
this is, of course, the briefcase from Russia with Love.
Do they let you keep these things? I mean,
Well, no, I had this
You
for
nicked-
demonstrating what I'm doing to you now.
you nicked them, do
I
you?
nicked them, yes.
I mean, yes.
I haven't nicked, there are a lot of things. The Fabergé egg from, I wasn't allowed to keep that, and I've
No.
not been able to nick it either.
What a shame. What a shame. What else, then, have we done?
There's his Walther PPK.
Goodness. It's a man's gun, that, Desmond.
Ah, it is.
I feel at home. with
Well,
that.
here's another one.
Is it, what's
That's
that?
the Piton gun.
What does that
You
do?
see, it really, all these gadgets work. Now, the Piton gun is just an ordinary mountaineer's pistol.
Yeah.
And in Diamonds Are Forever, Bond went up the side of the house. And in the old days, you used to bang your Pitons in. Now you just fire them in.
Yeah.
And there you are.
And they all work. That's the great
Everything
thing.
works.
What's this? Is there a ring?
Except this.
Yeah, what's that?
If I can find it.
That thing
Ah.
that... Yeah, what's
That
that?
was the ring that I used in Diamonds Forever to win all the money from the fruit machines.
That's right. There's a scene where you're standing by the fruit machines
And
you use
all
it,
the
and
money comes out.
Yeah. And
But when
does
I-
that work?
It didn't. And when I...
What a shame.
And when I'd finished, my pockets were full of money. And I thought, right, do I just walk out? And I said, no. I'll put it all back into one machine. And I didn't get a sausage.
What's this? What's this? This is from License to Kill, isn't it? Now, this. Hang on, I'll get a couple of the
Now,
audience.
but
while-
don't be careful. God
I just
knows
thought it
what
was an
it'll do.
opportunity to get my own back, Desmond.
Ah, well.
Yeah.
Well, I can't... I don't really know whether this works or not. It's a signature gun, you see.
Yeah.
Now, let me do a bit of demonstration.
Well,
now,
would you mind pointing it somewhere else?
Pay attention.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, sir.
Right.
Okay.
Pay attention.
All right, Q.
Now, I want no interruptions and no quips at the audience. Just listen to what I have to say, and if you give me your undivided attention, I won't keep you here long. Right. Now.
No wonder Bond can't stand him. Right.
What do you mean, can't stand?
Sorry, Q.
Now, that's right.
Yeah.
The idea is, I believe, that if you put your fingers round there, there's some sort of impression. And
Oh, I see.
then...
It goes green. There's little green lights going off. What does that mean? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, once you've fired it, nobody else can fire it.
I see.
And in the new film, in the modern, in License to Kill, Bond uses that, and it is lying down, and of course somebody tries to shoot him, and of course it won't work.
Brilliant. Hey, I'll just get Terry Gray, who's the floor manager. I've been wanting to get rid of him for some time. This is terrific, isn't it?
It is.
Look
It's
at
great
Do you
fun.
think there's a possibility something like that would be invented?
Well, of course, I don't know. You see, all these gadgets, as I say, work. I've got to find out whether this does work.
Yeah. No, I mean, you've been tremendously loyal to James Bond. I mean, how can you stand? I mean, he gets all the girls and all the rest of it. I mean, you get Miss Moneypenny.
I don't mind the modern Miss Moneypenny.
She's You didn't fancy the old one much, didn't you? No,
Oh, she was all right.
Yeah.
But she's
Bit
about,
old for
you know, the same as me. You know,
steady,
I like them younger.
Yeah. May your shadow never diminish. It's a great pleasure to meet you. Desmond
Thank you very
Llewellyn.
much.
Q. Calm yourselves. The latest Bond lovely, Talisa Soto, the producer, Albert Cubby Broccoli, and the good commander himself, Timothy Dalton, will be with us within the hour. Bond villains have always matched 007 blow for blow until the final reel. Who can forget the incarnate evil of Goldfinger, Blofeld, Scaramanga, Drax? There's another maestro of menace in License to Kill, a drug overlord, Sanchez. Cross him at your peril.
You think I'm stupid? Huh? You rip me off, then use my own money to pay someone to kill me? You want it so bad. And take it!
Wait, let me talk to me. It's not my money!
It gets worse. I won't tell you how that scene ends, but it's very messy. Welcome, Robert Davi. Well, we got a lot of Bond fans in the audience. And I must say, I've been privileged to see the movie. You're a fairly chilling villain in it. I mean, did you model yourself on any of the previous legendary Bond villains?
No, I kind of modeled myself after the current wave of the Medellin cartel drug lords that you find in Colombia. The Ochoas, the Escobars, a little bit of Noriega. These are some of the most dangerous men in the world today.
Oh, certainly. And within their purlieus, the most powerful. But how can you... It's all very well saying you model yourself on a Colombian drug overlord, but they're not all that accessible. I mean...
Well, you can phone them up once or twice. They're in the
Come
yellow
to coffee.
pages.
Yeah.
They have drug lords under the, you know...
Who gave you the tips on how they were, what kind of people they were?
Well, I guess living in Los Angeles, there's an underground, I guess, in any area you live in life, and I put the word out to some friends of mine that I wanted to meet with.
Yes.
Someone that may know this world or had involvings in it, and also with drug agents that I had talked to. They put me in touch with some people that they had this thing on.
So what kind of a guy is Sanchez? Because it seems from watching it...
Can I just interject for a second?
Of course.
You know, I thought you would make a terrific Bond, but I had one comment.
It's not critical, is it?
No, not really.
Because
I just
punched my
feel
way.
that you should change your tie.
What?
I think this would be a lot more Bond-like.
I'll put your point to Cubby, but frankly, you know, I think that's been what's been wrong with the Bond movies for several years now, is that the bow ties haven't been colorful enough.
Up to date.
If I have a criticism, that's what's been wrong. So what kind of a character is the Sanchez? Because watching him, he's younger. than the usual Bond villain, isn't he? And slightly more, I thought, realistic.
Well, I hope a lot more realistic. Like I said, when I was doing the research for the character, looking through different DEA files and different documentaries, they kept making reference to the experiences in the files that it seems like it comes out of a James Bond film.
Yeah.
And here I am reading the script, and it's like out of the reality. So it's very real, very frightening in that it's so real.
Yeah. What about, how'd you get on with Tim Dalton during the film?
Well, I guess the best way to describe that is on our first meeting. There was a meeting up in Cubby's office in Los Angeles, and with John Glenn and Michael Wilson. What had happened was they said, meet us for lunch and discuss the character. And I didn't know that Timothy was going to be at this particular meeting. He knew I was going to be there, but I didn't know he was. So I walk into the room, and they say, Robert, this is Timothy Dalton. And of course, now I'm face to face with James Bond. And I think we both already started working on the characters ourselves, and we kind of looked into each other's eyes for what seemed like an eternity. In reality, it was 2 minutes. But we just stared at each other.
And then you kissed?
And then we kissed. We kissed, we made up, and they rewrote the script.
What a friendship.
But it was a very interesting first meeting, and then we eventually did warm up to each other, and I think Cubby and Michael Wilson were a little nervous. They might have to recast. It wouldn't be Bond, it would be me.
Yeah.
But it went on great. We started drinking tequila together, and we had a lot of fun during filming.
It's not work, is it, really?
Oh, it is. It is very serious. But I mean, there are times when you have to just relax out of you're shooting a film like this for 6 months. You have to kind of let your hair down. And
What were conditions like for you with shooting? We were in Mexico and Acapulco and places like that. Good? We always think it's wonderful. I've never been there. Is it great?
Well, it is beautiful. I mean, I had a few bad experiences. I mean, I'm unfortunately...
Nothing personal. We don't want to hear about things until after the 9 o'clock watershed.
No, but what happens is, you'll see on the screen we're being very cool and cordial to each other in one particular scene in Acapulco. And I think I had a slight temperature, and the weather was so humid and hot. I mean, I sweat a lot, and what can I tell you, in that kind of humidity? I mean, I should have sunglasses with a gutter on the frame to catch the drippings. So it's kind of, not all fun and games.
No. Now, you had a scene in the beginning where you're, I better not say too much without giving the plot away, but anyway, you're underwater and you're handcuffed, and you're locked in. Mm-hmm. Did you use a stand-in for that? How do you do a thing like that?
Well, on that particular thing, that was, I guess, the most frightening stunt that I had ever done in a film, because we did it at the soundstage, which this armored car is submerged in water, but I'm handcuffed to this armored car, totally submerged in water, trying to gasp my last breath, and waiting for these scuba guys to come in to help me with and unfortunately that day the water was like 35 degrees below zero or something, so I'm trying to not breathe underwater, and I'm shivering like this as I'm waiting for this scuba guy to come in and give me the mouthpiece, and that was...
It'd be nice to get the girl in the end, wouldn't it?
Yeah, without having to put a gun to her head.
Yeah. Robert, I know you're going to stay with us. Congratulations on the movie.
Thank
stay
you.
with us. Robert Downey. Robert wants to stay, and I'm not going to argue with him. Of course, one of the great attractions of the Bond movies over the years have been the ladies, bless them, who can easily forget Honey Child Rider, Solitaire, Mary Goodnight, and now there's Loopy L'Amour.
James, don't go. I'm scared. What's going to happen to us?
Don't worry. When this is all over, make sure you get back home.
Home? It took me 15 years to get away from there. I don't want to go back. Can't we leave together? I'll be safe with you.
No, Loopy. I don't think that would work out.
How can we tell him that's what you like? I think it's going to work out very well.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Talisa Soto. course, the ladies in Bond movies have always been traditionally extraordinarily glamorous. It's a tough tradition to kind of follow, isn't it? Is it hard to sustain the matchless glamour over a 5-month filming in very humid conditions?
Yes, it is difficult, but we give a lot of credit to the makeup artists and hairdressers. They keep us in shape.
Yeah, you didn't sweat as much as
No.
old Sanchez there. No. Yeah. Well, what's Loopy L'Amour like then? You have to understand that in Britain, Loopy means, well, maybe same in America, it means you're not the full shilling. But I mean, I know it's a Spanish name, Lupe L'Amour. So what's she like? How does she differ?
Well, she's different because it's not like the Bond girls in the past that James Bond would have his way with her.
Mm.
You know, she uses him as much as he uses her. You know.
She's a rascal, isn't she?
She's a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing of you has crept into the role, of course, isn't it?
No, nothing.
Yeah. You make a play for Bond, but I don't want to ruin too much, but in the end, you don't get him. I mean, it's pretty devastating for old Lupe, is it?
Well, if you watch closely, you'll see a shrug of the shoulders. Say, well, you're lost.
Yeah. Yeah, because she gets the money in the end anyway, doesn't
Exactly,
she?
the house, the works.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sanchez.
Bond, of course, is sophisticated, but I mean, he's been accused of being slightly sexist, and he is. There's a touch of the chauvinist there over the years, as far as women are concerned. Is that your type of fella? That your type of guy?
Well, let's just say if a fella came up to me and said, make me a martini, shaken, not stirred, I'll say, make it yourself.
You're not my kind of girl. I'm sorry. We'll share a glass, and that'll be the end. Okay. What about Robert? There was a scene where you're sharing scenes with him and an iguana. Who did you get on with best?
Tough question.
Yeah.
No, of course.
The iguana.
I dreaded that thing, I tell you.
Yeah, that wasn't easy. Working with an iguana, never work with animals and children, of course. But how did you, I mean, you had the iguana there all the time on the
Well,
shoulder.
I kind of enjoyed the iguana. I mean, the iguana was very, it took a liking to me immediately.
Yeah.
I mean...
It was a permanent attachment here.
I mean, I think one time you went to pick it up and it scratched the hell out of me.
Yes, it sure did.
I mean, the one fearful thing about the iguana is, which I remember, is I would be doing a scene and I'd have the iguana here and worried that it was going to scutter about or do something. And John Glenn was behind the camera, as your camera guys are, and he's watching the scene going on, and he's saying, that's lovely, all right, come in tighter on that, it looks great, I love it, it's fantastic, okay, that's it, that's what I want, okay, all right, action, print, cut, great, it was terrific, and he'd come over, and I'm thinking, you know, he'd come and look at the iguana, and he'd say, geez, what a terrific little thing, I love it. He says, Alec, you think we could give a little key light to the iguana here? And he did this take after take, and here I'm playing this drug lord who wants all the attention. And the iguana,
Yeah. You never work with him again.
No. Well, I had it stuffed, and now it's in Los Angeles.
That's an awful thing to do to Teresa, not your first movie, it's your second movie.
Right.
Do you think this one will be hopefully the takeoff for you? Takeoff point in an acting career?
Hopefully, yeah, it'll be great, especially because it's international.
Yeah. I think an awful lot of people, particularly ladies, will know you from the covers of all the great magazines. You've been a tremendously successful model for a couple of years now. Does this mean the end of the modeling career?
Well, it has been, actually. It's been sort of 2 years I haven't.
You've packed it in?
Yeah.
What are you doing for a crust now? How do you make a living?
Well, I've been really busy doing publicity and for this film, and I'll be starting a new film in September.
Yeah.
I'm open for anything.
Good.
I did a mistake there.
We won't. You trained as an opera singer, didn't you, Robert?
Yes, yeah.
A pleasing baritone.
Lyric baritone.
A lyric baritone.
What's pleasing baritone?
The same thing.
Oh. Sorry, I'm not used to...
Yeah. Do you sing at all now, or just in the bath?
No, I sing out of the bath.
Yeah?
Sing. Yeah, depending on my mood and how much tequila or vodka or something like that.
Yeah. We could, if you sang, we could do the duet from Rigoletto, but I suppose no point now, because you don't know the part.
If she sang. Maybe next time.
Next time, come on. Do you enjoy being part of the Bond family? Was it a bit nerve-wracking to be in a Bond movie, almost second part you played?
It was I was a little nervous, but I sort of arrived without putting any expectations, just taking day as it, every day as it comes. And the Bond family, they're wonderful. They're wonderful, as I'm sure all you know.
Everybody says that, but I'm sure you all hated each other.
Yeah.
No. They create a very warm atmosphere. I mean, it starts with Cubby, who's the patriarch, and Dana's wife, and leads down to Barbara and Michael Wilson. There must have been somebody that you didn't like, Timothy, I bet.
No.
You didn't?
I like
Aha.
him. I like him.
You all got on okay. I hate that. Well, there was one actor I had a little altercation with. I mean, but that just happens in any creative environment. Of course, I'm glad I wasn't the actor in question, because you're a big devil. Anyway, thank you both very much. Thank you to Lisa. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the stage. Cubby Broccoli, who's been producing Bond since the dawn of time, and Bond himself, Timothy Dalton. They're going to be with us shortly, but I know you're all ears for the latest Bond theme music. They've been done by the best, by Bassie, Lulu, McCartney, Duran, and this one's no exception. License to Kill, from Gladys Knight. That's the theme from License to Kill. Our listeners to my old Radio 2 show will know only too well how hard I tried for the James Bond role for many years. I begged, pleaded, I offered to pay. Zippo, Connery, Moore, Lazenby, Dalton, lesser men all. Why was I overlooked? Why were you overlooked? You'd have done it for nothing as well, wouldn't you? It was good to have a chance to name the guilty man. Producer of every Bond movie since Dr. No in 1833. Albert Cubby Broccoli. Well, at last. Why didn't I get the role?
Well, for a start.
Don't get personal. I don't want any personal. Don't start in about the bow tie.
You wouldn't wear the tie. It wouldn't go.
Well, a man has his pride. An actor has to make a stand somewhere.
Yes.
I know. But there was a lot of ill feeling, Cubby.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, there was. I hated not being picked.
Well, you were a little bit late in coming forth, you know.
Yeah?
Never gave me a hint.
I had everything. I had youth on my side and everything.
Well, there were a few little, sort of a little...
All right, get out of here. That's character building.
I have the same trouble.
Oh, listen. Just to show you there's no ill feeling. Cubby, do you take a drink at all?
I do.
Oh, bless you. Nothing much in this little ginger ale. What makes a good James Bond?
A good James Bond, we've had several of them. I think you can take right from, thank you, from Sean, Roger, and our present Timothy. And that would give you a very good example of what a good Bond is.
Yeah, they're all different, aren't they?
All
it's just a bit difficult sometimes when, as Tim has done, has taken over.
Yes.
You know, the public take maybe a Bond or two to get used to them, don't they?
That's true, but Timothy took to it like a duck takes to water.
Yeah.
And he was right there when we wanted him, and he was exciting, gave us all of the Bond strength that we need.
Who are your favorite villains? Who'd you like? I mean, the old villains are terribly important, aren't they?
Yes. Well, Goldfinger was a good villain with Gerd Frobe.
That's right. That was my favorite Bond movie, Goldfinger, I think.
Was it? Yes.
Yeah. I don't know why.
Then we had cheers.
Cheers.
Don't mind us.
Have you finished your drink already? We poured one out for you earlier, you know.
We had some very excellent villains.
Yeah.
At the moment, this is the 16th.
Sanchez.
Yes, Sanchez, well, he's superb
Yeah.
when you see him in the film. Well, he's the caliber of the kind of Bond that we need.
All but 2 of the Bond movies have been made in Britain.
Yes.
This one isn't, or hasn't been.
This wasn't made. This was made in Mexico.
Why did you decide not to do?
Well,
not to keep us
there
in
was a
dollars?
monetary problem. You know, the
What, the exchange rate?
Exchange rate was one of the problems.
Yeah.
And we needed the scenery of Mexico, and that type of scenery, and it was exciting to be there. We had a few little hiccups there that weren't very good. I was laid up in the hospital for working in the altitude, but outside of that, it all went very well.
Are you still as enthusiastic about making them as ever?
Yes, I'm enthusiastic about it. I'm 80 years old, and I'm still enthusiastic about making Bond. Bond will go on forever.
What about this one? This one's got a 15 certificate.
Yeah, well,
You can't be happy about that.
not very happy about that, but that was the choice of the censor. We didn't agree with him, but there you are. He calls the shots.
Are you happy with it anyway? Are you happy with the movie?
I'm very delighted about it. Well, I wouldn't say, you know.
You know.
But I am really, truly delighted.
I don't expect you to tell me it's a rotten movie, no.
No, it's a good movie, and you'll enjoy it.
Good.
And the public will enjoy it. I wouldn't sell it to the public if I didn't believe in it.
Well, you've given good value for money in the past.
I hope so.
And you will again. Thank you. Cubby Broccoli. We're all together here like Brown's cows on the settee, and it's a good job there's only one person to come because there isn't enough room. So if you 3 will stay, please. We couldn't do a James Bond special without the august and menacing presence of the Superman commander himself. Now, this man took over the role in 1986 for The Living Daylights and carries his Beretta into License to Kill, and as usual, it's no picnic. As played by that fine actor, Timothy Dalton. Well, it looks very dangerous, Timothy. I mean, did you get involved? I was asking Robert this earlier. Did you get involved in much of the stunts yourself?
I like to get involved in everything, yeah.
Yeah.
That sequence you've just shown, I had to learn to scuba dive for.
Well, that's great, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's important that that the audience identify with Bond.
Of course. Yeah.
And if they can see that he's there, then they will.
Yeah. What about you? Look,
Jesus Christ, I'm terrified.
You're James Bond. You can't be. Well, you're Timothy.
Well, I'm
Dalton,
not at the moment.
and you can't
Cheers.
be. I know it's funny, isn't it? No matter how experienced people are, they come and they sit in the city and they get a bit nervous. But there's no reason for it. I mean, you look perfect for the part. You are perfect in the part. But you turned it down twice.
Well, I was asked if I'd be interested twice, which isn't quite the same thing as having an offer. The first time was many years ago when Sean gave up the part. And I thought he was terrific. He was splendid. I'd seen Sean Connery in my local cinema back home as a kid. I'd sneaked in. I was underage. There were 16-year-old films then. And I thought he was great. I couldn't take over.
Was that Dr. No, the first one that
Yeah.
you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, and that's kind of intimidating, isn't it? When you have a mental picture yourself of an actor in the role, and then you're asked to take it over. When you did decide or agree to take it over, did it affect you? Did those considerations, or did you allow them to affect you?
Well, I was luckier, I think. There'd been 3 people played the part before. And Cubby and I met in the Dorchester, I think it was, one day, and I said that if I was to do it, I'd love to try and take the movies back to being action-adventure thrillers for adults that kids could enjoy, but nevertheless something like those early movies and the Ian Fleming books. And Cubby was wholeheartedly behind that. I think your favorite was From Russia with Love, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Great train sequence with Robert Shaw and Sean Connery.
Yes, I remember.
And so I said, yeah, but...
This time
well,
you said yes.
Yes, I guess there are problems. I mean, you know going in that half the world loves Roger Moore and half the world loves Sean Connery. So, you know that whatever you do, you might end up with everybody in the world hating you. Yeah. But you've got to try and make it your own and go for what you believe in. And
so that's how you decide on your own interpretation. What did you do to work out your own interpretation of the part?
Well, all I could do was, I mean, I couldn't copy anybody, and I couldn't, you know, create a part out of the ether. I just went back to the books. The books were what started it all. They gave rise to the first films, and Ian Fleming had created that character, so I studied the books and tried to bring that Bond into the scripts that Michael Wilson and Richard Maybaum had written.
Well, without being over-analytical, becoming too deep about it, how do you see Bond? What sort of a person is Bond then?
Well, it's interesting. Cubby's wife, Dana Broccoli, was down in the basement of the office the other day and pulled out some old cartons full of, you know, old dusty papers. And among them were some unseen Fleming notes. He described Bond as a blunt instrument of government, as a man who is dangerous, ruthless, morbid, relentless, tenacious, a man who would sometimes, determined to get on with his job, but who would sometimes, if he saw a woman who was in danger, he would sometimes rescue her, but then again, sometimes he wouldn't.
Now, you actually trained as a classical actor.
Yeah.
I know, actually Robert did as well, as well as being a singer. Do you think playing Bond is good or bad for that? I mean, is that...
Oh, it's been terrific.
It's not counterproductive for your career?
No. It's been terrific because last year, in between the 2 Bond movies, I did a play in the West End of London, a Eugene O'Neill play called A Touch of the Poet with Vanessa, who you've interviewed.
Yes.
Here, in fact, we interviewed her when we were doing Taming of the Shrew together. And we always got people at the stage door who came and said, I've never been to the theatre before. I only came because you were James Bond, but didn't expect to see this sort of grey-haired, paunchy drunkard on the stage, and said they loved it, and they were going to come to the theatre again. So it helps to fill the theatre, it brings people, it doesn't help at all. It's no hindrance whatsoever.
And of course, you've made a couple of mini-series, and I know you made a movie, because I wanted to ask you about the movie in Hollywood with Mae West. Now, it wasn't a great movie. What was it like working with Mae West?
It's more of a museum piece, Terry. You're going to embarrass me now.
Yeah.
She was wonderful. I mean, she was very old. And I think if you keep that in context, she was vain enough to lie about her age. She said she was 84. They knew she was 87, and people that really knew said she was 91. So within that context, you are dealing with a lady who day by day got stronger and stronger, always had the funniest lines. When everyone else was sitting around a set trying to work them out, she was fine.
I know you're one of those involved, and I'm sure Robert isn't, most actors are, in this Rose Theatre.
Yeah.
And which is why you're wearing the rose and hoping, as indeed we did a program mostly about Peggy Ashcroft and Athena Seiler. So we wish you luck with that. And I know you're committed to it. It's good to have you all. It's nice for you all to join us and celebrate the new Bond in this way.
Very
so
nice
thanks.
of you to
Thanks very much indeed, Terry.
Thank you all for coming. Good luck with the meeting. And as the captains, commanders, and the kings depart, I'll do the same. License to Kill is currently on show in London, but it'll be on release countrywide in a couple of weeks. And I'll be back here, leaning nonchalantly on the bar on Friday at 7 o'clock. See you then. It's only joking, Cubby. I'm still available.
License to Kill opened in the summer of 1989 with some stiff competition from films like Lethal Weapon 2, Ghostbusters 2, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Batman. This and the mixed reviews made it one of the lowest grossing Bond films ever.
Siskel and Ebert reviewed Timothy Dalton as James Bond, going solo on a mission of vengeance in License to Kill. Romance threatens Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan's friendship in When Harry Met Sally. And the children's classic Peter Pan returns to theaters. It's all coming up next on Siskel and Ebert.
James Bond is back again, but his license to kill has been revoked in the new 007 adventure that stars Timothy Dalton. It's one of the movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, plus a look at a new video version of the Woodstock documentary and a tribute to the late Laurence Olivier. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is the latest James Bond adventure, and my basic reaction is that the picture is uneven, ranging from quite exciting to tedious. With Roger Moore now thankfully out of the picture, Timothy Dalton returns as 007, and the result is a more traditional character, less the wise guy, more the gutsy hard worker, and I like that difference. Bond's mission in the movie, License to Kill, is to stop a Central American drug dealer. Ignoring his government's demand that he butt out of the hunt for this drug kingpin, Bond worms his way into the crime boss's lair, posing as a problem solver for hire.
I thought I might find work here.
Well, it's very difficult to obtain a work permit in Isthmus. It's, well, one has to show a special talent that people here don't have.
Well, that shouldn't be too difficult.
The two good-looking women in the movie are Carrie Lowell as an ex-CIA operative helping Bond, and dark-haired Talisa Soto as the drug dealer's girlfriend who is attracted to Bond.
You're very professional.
Used to work here.
Am I going to win or lose?
Lose, but not much.
Naturally, License to Kill has plenty of action scenes. The best involves Bond trying to hook the drug dealer's airplane as sort of an airborne fisherman. That's kind of fun. Some of the other action scenes run on too long, as does the whole movie. If we get the point, they should move this thing quicker to its conclusion. The film also has sort of a dirty, unfinished look that I can't explain. They spend so much money on these pictures, I can't understand why this isn't just more crisp and good looking. But Timothy Dalton is solid as Bond. Robert Davi is a good villain, although the villain itself, the character as written, isn't that powerful. He doesn't seem like a classic Bond villain who's going to take over the world. There isn't a lot of romance there. He just looks like another drug dealer. I have to give the film, therefore, a mixed review. I can't recommend it enthusiastically, sort of reluctantly. It's a real close call for me. I give it thumbs down.
Thumbs up for me. I liked it, I guess, a lot more than you did. And one of the things I noticed was that they are trying, at last, to make the Bond pictures a little more contemporary in feeling. I'm not sure that, yes, I'm not sure that I was happy that the villain this time is a quasi-realistic South American drug kingpin. I liked it better when we had the Goldfingers, you know, who were going to take over the entire world. I don't like, I'm getting tired of drugs as a subject of movies and an excuse for evil in movies. But apart from that, I think the Dalton character this time, Timothy Dalton's performance, has really found its stride. I think he has turned out to be a very good choice for James Bond.
I think so.
He's more matter of fact. He's a little harder, a little tougher, a little leaner, less obsessed with sex, more involved in action. It's more of a performance that seems to realize that we've now had all the Rambo pictures, the Indiana Jones pictures, action pictures that have come along since James Bond, and that were threatening, I think, to make the whole series seem sort of obsolete.
Did you think, when you were sort of nodding, I could see out of the corner of my eye when I was talking about the dirty look of the film. Didn't that surprise you? I don't know what, I don't know what's wrong there.
There were a couple of missing shots, missing transitions. Feelings that we got from one place to another place without it being explained.
But I'm talking about art direction. I mean, really.
Oh, that didn't bother me. One thing I liked in terms of art direction and stunt coordination was the final chase scene involving those 3 gigantic gasoline tankers down that twisting mountain road. I mean, that is as sensational a chase sequence as we've seen in any Bond picture. So I like that.
It's not a bad picture. Even this conversation, though, reflects the mixed nature, or mixed reaction I had to the picture.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is the summer re-release of the 1953 Walt Disney animated feature Peter Pan.
Okay, boys and girls, we're going to start out with a riddle. Why is a James Bond movie like a very, very, very dry martini? Give up? Because the harder it is to swallow, the more people seem to like it. Yes, once again, we get a veritable K-Tel collection of Hollywood's greatest stunts. In License to Kill, Timothy Dalton is back as the wry spy, bringing his formidable chin dimple to bear upon drug smuggler Robert Davey, whose makeup looks like it was done by Manuel Noriega's dermatologist.
Nobody saw you come in, so nobody has to see you go out.
Over 27 years now, James Bond films have really become ritual movies, comfortably familiar. His music, his enemies, his women, still long on legs and short on talent.
Sanchez has arranged to buy 4 Stinger missiles from the Contras. And he's threatened to shoot down an American airliner if the DEA doesn't lay off.
Bond films have always featured state-of-the-art stunt work. License to Kill is loaded with it. At 2 hours and 10 minutes, it's a real test of endurance for the audience, not for Dalton, who executes his part with the usual assortment of stunt doubles and one-liners.
Your license to kill is revoked, and I require you to hand over your weapon.
And I guess it's a farewell to arms.
Now, you see, Timothy Dalton is not, to me, the most elegant Bond, and I think that's why he's upstaged by just about everybody else in this movie except Governor Martinez. That's right, Governor Martinez. He has a small, non-speaking role. He plays a drug agent. And with Governor Martinez's aid, 007 earns a 006 out of 10. License to Kill is exciting, but it's not inspiring. You know, it's high on slam-bang action, but low on intelligence. This is a movie which will leave you shaken, but not stirred. I'm Henry Tenenbaum.
Yeah, this scene deals with the arrival of Frank McRae at Felix Leiter's house when they've discovered his wife murdered.
This is exactly okay, I'll be there. Come here! You can't go in. No, sir. Come on, come here. No!
It's okay, he's a friend of Leiter's.
Hey, let him in.
We filmed this scene at Snipe Point, Key West, in August 1988. The reason probably that we removed the scene was maybe it had something to do with Timothy's hat.
That's the girl Sanchez left behind. Get the bimbo below before she starts waving at him.
Yes, sir.
Fishing vessels, stand off. We have divers in the water. Clear away immediately. So get out of sight around that headland. And be careful, we're being followed.
In this scene, we see the exterior of the casino in Isthmus City, and in the background, you'll see the president, played by Pedro Almodovar Jr. Some people may remember his father in From Russia with Love.
Isthmus City is aglitter tonight as Fran Sanchez arrives at a party that some say is to celebrate his recent escape from custody in the U.S. Senor Sanchez, You were recently described in a leading American newspaper as a drug lord involved in narcotics trafficking. What do you have to say about these comments?
First of all, the United States should not blame me for its drug problems. Yo soy un hombre de negocios. I'm a businessman who runs a gambling casino. I love the Americans. I think they're a great people. And I welcome you all here. Besides, we have better odds than in the U.S. Only 1-0 on the roulette wheel. Excuse me, I must greet my guests, okay?
President Hector Lopez arriving. Military escort, Hector, Hector. They're chanting. Here he is now, flags waving, as Fran Sanchez escorts his guests into the gala evening. This is Anna Rack, Latin American Network News, live from Isthmus City.
This scene I shot in August '88. It starred Bud Williams, and unfortunately for Bud, I dropped the scene. But it was a good scene. It was just that we had stronger scenes, and I didn't think it was strictly necessary in terms of narrative. So off it went, I'm afraid.
Hi. I'd like to rent your boat.
Not a chance.
Well, how much to buy her?
More than you've got, wise ass.
Name your price.
All right, $200,000.
Does that include a full tank of petrol?
Yes, here we see the scene at the Acapulco airport, which is supposed to be Isthmus City airport, and it shows the Chinese or Japanese businessmen arriving, greeted by Robert Darby, and Timothy Dalton and Carrie Lowell watch the proceedings, and then we establish a shadowy figure watching, and it turns out to be Christopher Neame, who's a British agent watching and presumably reporting back.
The young guy is Truman Lodge, Sanchez's financial whiz kid. He's wandered back home for insider trading on Wall Street.
Do you recognize any of the others?
Yeah, the tall blonde guy is Heller, ex-Green Beret colonel, handles all of Sanchez security. The feds would love to get their hands on him, too.
Yes, this scene takes place in this most beautiful post office in Mexico City. They allowed us to work there at the weekend, and it was a very, very beautiful building with lots of wrought iron work, which I believe was made in Britain many years ago. I deleted the part of the scene where Bond brushes against Robert Darby. There's a moment where you think that he may recognize him, and decided we didn't need that. Didn't kind of work the way I thought it might, so we just picked the scene up a bit later.
Bienvenidos, amigos.
Señor Sánchez. Señor Sánchez, señor White. Señor Rosano. ¿Su hijo?
This scene here is in the casino, which we used a very beautiful building in Mexico City, and we imported all the gaming machines, etc., from America. It was quite a job for Peter Lamont and his crew to work out, but the whole point of the scene really was just to establish the two Chinese narcotic agents from Hong Kong who we see in the background. In the event, we didn't think it was necessary in the end, and I dropped the scene.
Well, let's get out of here.
I have the draft you wanted, Senorita Kennedy.
Just the profits. I could use some walking around money.
You've been walking an awful long way on $250,000.
So what did you do with that hot tamale?
We went to see Sanchez.
Well, this is another interesting scene, really. This was shot while I was down in Mexicali with Timothy and Carrie and shooting the truck sequence, all the bits that we needed to with the main artists. And Miguel Hill, my assistant, was entrusted with doing the arrival outside the house and the subsequent thing when the tanks and that arrived. So that was going on while I was down there, and then I came back and I shot the interiors. On recollection, I decided that I really didn't need all that pedestrian stuff of arriving and him being strapped to the table. It all took good time, good screen time. So in the end, I found it more pacey to come straight in with the water being thrown in his face, and the rest is self-explanatory, really.
Who the hell are you?
Be polite and answer the man.
Again, this is another example of a pure editing decision, really, to keep the pace going. We've seen Bond escape, and we've seen him on the blind side of the boat. It's probably quite a good example how versatile Timothy Dalton was at doing his own action stuff, that we could speed through the water with him attached to the bow of the boat. He was game for all that. It's a very pretty scene, but it didn't really add an awful lot to the story, so I decided to drop it.
I'm going back.
Do you love him?
No, I hate him. You're crazier than he is.
What's black and white and red all over? A license to kill.
Effective immediately. Your license to kill is revoked.
When Bond wants revenge, he doesn't need a license. Timothy Dalton is on target, and the result is genuine Bond. License to Kill. Now on video cassette.
License to Kill was released on UK VHS rental on the 4th of May 1990 by Warner Home Video. It was released on US rental on the 4th of January 1990 by CBS Fox Video. The soundtrack score was composed and conducted by Michael Kamen, who is known for scoring many action films at the time, such as Lethal Weapon and Die Hard. John Glenn said he picked Kamen feeling he could give the closest thing to John Barry. The title song was performed by Gladys Knight and was based on the horn line from Goldfinger.
Please don't bet that you'll ever escape me. License to kill. And you know I'm going straight for your heart.
The end credits feature the song If You Ask Me To, sung by Patti LaBelle. .007 License to Kill is a 1989 video game based on the James Bond film of the same name, developed by Quixel and published by Domark in 1989. It was released for the Amiga, Amstrad CPC, Atari ST, BBC Micro, Commodore 64, DOS, MSX, and ZX Spectrum.